when people are addicted to to anything, right? Any kind of drug, no matter what it is. When people are addicted to something, you have to kind of think about like Hunter S. Thompson. Hunter Thompson may have been a lot of things, but he wasn't wrong about this, and he pointed out that you can turn your back on a person, but never turn your back on a drug, right? And what he's talking about is that someone who's on a drug, right? They're not really themselves. Okay, they could do something that would be really horrible. They could regret it immediately. 5 minutes after they did it, they could be regret it, and all of a sudden that moment of clarity hits, and then they can regret it. But it doesn't change what they did, right? Which is why you don't turn your back on a drug. You don't turn your back on someone that's like that. Well, one of the most powerful drugs that exists right now is the drug of power, the drug of political power, the drug of so let it be written, so let it be done. Okay, that is an incredibly addictive non-substance, for lack of a better explanation, and people are not going to give that up. The number of politicians, the bankers who create all of this money out of nothing, they are not going to give that up. Not willingly, not willingly, not easily. They do consider anything that competes with that to be a direct existential threat, right? I mean, consider, for example, who did the Soviets get rid of? They got rid of anybody who knew what was going on. Who did the Maoists get rid of? Anybody who knew what was going on. Small business owners, actually, in a lot of cases, because the small business owners, they saw the inflation. They saw what was actually going on with the currency, and they started saying, hold on, we need to raise our prices now. It wasn't corporate greed that did that. Like, you know, it's like when I have my commie followers, they'll say things like, it's all about corporate greed. Like, yes, it's corporate greed, but not in the way you think. Remember, it's a handful of very powerful companies that have effectively captured the entire government. That will always happen, just so you know. It doesn't make any difference what system you have. Like, well, we can vote for better people. No, you can't. You can't. You will never vote for better people. That's a pipe dream. There was an economist, I'm not going to say his name, but there was an economist who talked about this. He and I got into it one time, and I had said, listen, you're never going to vote for good people to run any of this. The type of people that are attracted to political power are the worst. I mean, like, they are the worst sort of people. They are the very people you would not want to give. You wouldn't want them in charge of anything, you know, because some people, when they get a tiny taste of power, that's all it takes, and they are off to the races, and there's no stopping them. And the personality like that can't be trusted with this. And so anytime you have something that's going to work like that, you're not going to have you're not going to be able to get your way. You're not going to vote your way out of it. So look at the type of people that got hurt. The people who got hurt, the people who got unalived, this giant mega number, right? You can look it up. There's a word for it called democide. And there's a great book by Rudy Rommel, and I think it's called Democide. I can't say the actual title because of the algorithms, but you look up Democide, okay? And you'll see that book. And in the book, he breaks it down. He points out just how many people were unalived to try and keep these ridiculous systems alive. And it doesn't make any difference and I've been over this before, it doesn't make any difference what label you put on these systems. The outcome is the same. And that's what you're having to pay attention to, is the outcome. So the businesses, these small business owners, would raise their prices because the inflation was hitting them. Inflation is when you print too much money. You create more dollars than there is, or more currency than there is goods and services. And then you have too much currency chasing too few goods and services. That is what causes monetary inflation. And that monetary inflation was catching up to the small businesses, of course, so those people had to be unalived because they would complain about it. So anybody intelligent has to be dealt with severely, because anybody who understands, I mean, just look at your leaders. Anybody who would have any ability to lead, or anybody who would have the ability to be a strategist, they are considered an automatic threat to the power structure, no matter what power structure. Again, I can't stress this enough to the the rightists and the leftists that follow my work, you have got to get past this idea and get into a post-ism world. Get past the isms and start looking at the reality of what's going on. And you're going to find that most of these things all have a lot of things in common. And number one thing they have in common is the ability to warp reality, warp energy. And they do that. We're not talking about Star Trek here, okay? We're not talking about the warp drive. We're talking about a distortion in an economy. What is an economy? An economy is just people. You've heard me talk about this. Economy is just people. And when you distort their energy, that's their currency, right? Because remember, you're born with one currency on this planet. One currency only. It's the only one you're born with is your time. It's an unknown quantity, but you know that it is finite, right? Boomers don't know this, but most everybody else knows that it's finite. Boomers refuse to accept that, apparently, for whatever reason. Many of them seem to refuse to accept that. They're all going to live forever. So, but that's what happens when you can warp that, when you can change it, right, in people's minds. You end up being able to enslave the whole world very quickly to the idea of endless resources, and that's what's happened. So you have to change that. Does that make sense? I mean, I know I've been over this, but like for real, that's really important to understand that. Once you can get past that, then you can solve a lot of these other problems, and you get past the isms. You get past all that stuff, and you start going, okay, hold on. Let's correct the distortion. How do we correct the distortion? Well, you would correct the energy. What is the energy? It's the representation of the energy. Representation of the energy is money, right? Okay, what's the answer to 99 out of 100 questions? Money. So when you correct the money, when you make it to where it can't be conjured out of nothing, okay, seriously, where it takes actual energy to create said currency, and it isn't something that can just be conjured from nothing. It isn't Rumpelstiltskin, or where you could just just spin straw into gold kind of thing. This doesn't